Well, we have a big breaking news coming in. Another blow to Paytm Payments Bank. Now, sources have told NDTV Profit that the RBI has found material lapses in Paytm Payments Bank. Sources have also said that the RBI found breaches in the governance standards at Paytm Payments Bank. We have Vishwanath Nair bringing in these fresh details for you.
What we do understand from our sources, basically with regard to Paytm Payments Bank, is that the RBI, as part of the audit that it had conducted, the system audit as well as the external validation of the system audit, has found material lapses within the accounts of Paytm Payments Bank. This has to do with the standard of KYC verification of these customers who are using the Payments Bank services, as well as, of course, the Paytm app services. Essentially, there 1,000 or over 1,000 users were found to have used the same PAN number to open accounts with Paytm Payments Bank. And through these accounts, they were conducting crores of rupees worth of transactions. Now, this obviously is a material sort of supervisory problem at Paytm Payments Bank. What in terms of the governance standards as well, there were certain concerns that the RBI has raised. Basically, that the systems, the financial as well as non-financial systems of Paytm Payments Bank and its parent, 197 Communications or Paytm, the app that we popularly know, both of them were co-mingled, as in they were being used interchangeably between the two entities. And this is against the licensing conditions of the Paytm Payments Bank. Essentially, what the RBI found is that there was no arm's length distance between these two entities. They're supposed to function as two independent entities. And even if there is some kind of transaction that is happening between the two of them, it has to be at an arm's length distance. It cannot be co-mingled. That was a problem. What the RBI also found were serious concerns with regard to false compliance reports being submitted at Paytm Payments Bank, and that was a major concern as far as this entity is concerned. Now, if you remember, just a couple of days ago, the RBI introduced fresh strictures against Paytm Payments Bank. It has not been allowed to onboard customers since March 2022, and the RBI had asked them to fall within compliance over the last 22 months. But since the bank had not maintained that compliance standard, what the RBI has essentially done is stop fresh deposits after 29th of February. The RBI has also ensured that there are no top-up transactions happening in any Paytm Payments Bank account, whether they be linked to the bank account itself or through FASTag or UPI or any other transaction that was happening via Paytm Payments Bank. Their fresh deposits after the 29th of February have been blocked. Previously, we have also reported that there was, this is in preparation for the revocation of the license of Paytm Payments Bank. Considering that these material concerns are present, it looks like the RBI's decision in this process were being driven by these concerns that have been raised at the Payments Bank.
Right, Vishy. That's actually very interesting information because in the con call that was held yesterday at 3:30 p.m., Paytm's or rather 197 Communications management clearly said that Paytm and Paytm Payments Bank are very separate entities. And going ahead, how things will function will really depend on how things pan out in the next week. And what now you're picking up, that your sources are telling you that there was no arm's length distance was not maintained with the promoter group, comes at a very interesting point. So is there anything else that you're picking up from your sources?
Yeah, so Pragati, all that we know at this point in time is that these are some of the concerns that the RBI had. Now, of course, during the call, the management did say that they are shifting payment services to third-party banks. Now, remember that 29th February is sort of the deadline for any kind of transactions in Paytm Payments Bank. And if the 29th February deadline is not met, which is to say that if third-party banks are not inducted within the ecosystem by 29th of February, then that becomes an issue. That becomes an issue because then Paytm cannot process transactions at all if other banks are not coming in. Remember that there is a serious reputational risk to Paytm through this entire thing. And that's probably why some of the banks which may want to deal with Paytm would be having second thoughts. Because if there is a serious supervisory issue and it's not sure how far this runs, then the other lenders will be probably hesitant to come in and participate in this process with Paytm.
Right. Very difficult time ahead possibly for Paytm. Vishy, thanks so much for bringing us those exclusive details. We'll come back to you as soon as you hear more. For our viewers, let's give you a quick roundup of what Vishwanath Nair has gathered from their sources on Paytm Payments Bank. Indeed, a big blow. We know so far that RBI has found material lapses in Paytm Payments Bank, and that's what Vishy, who just joined and gave us those details, has picked up from the sources. Couple of things happening here. One, concerns over money laundering have been flagged due to the lack of adequate KYC. Second, sources have told Vishy that over 1,000 users were found to have linked the same PAN as well. These customers conducted crores of rupees of worth transactions, and that's what we are picking up from the sources, and Vishwanath Nair has already bring those details. For our viewers, we are mentioning these details on our screen as well. Soon we have Muralidharan joining us. We just got to know that Muralidharan has joined us with more details on this. Murali, we have a big breaking on Paytm Payments Bank for last 2 days. We've been covering it at length. RBI has already imposed additional stringent curbs. The stock has also plunged every day in the market. How are you seeing this panning out?
Okay, so 2-3 things. These questions arise. It's a little. It was not surprising, something big must have happened when RBI initially put them under watch and gave them a clear warning. So the notice that they've given, or the 29 days that they have given, is only for customers to adjust. That should have been the intention of RBI. Now, the second step is, in such a situation, under normal circumstances, RBI would have just gone ahead and cancelled the license. Now, that they've just stopped short of cancelling the license. So cancelling the license means that the bank has to shut down Paytm has to shut down the Paytm bank business. Now, what are the key issues here? One is money laundering. The other is the trust. The trust part is taken a knock. If we can bring Vishwanath Nair back, we would be able to find out from him how RBI would proceed in such cases. In the past, we have seen that multiple warnings would have been given, and then you would see RBI taking a final action. Now, the problem here is this is a very different and peculiar case, which has come to light. And as we say, 1,000 users were found to have linked the same PAN. Now, how many more users have they linked the PAN? Who are these users? This is a subject of investigation, and if there is suspicion of money laundering, I think it's going to be very serious. Now, the second point I would like to make is that the market has clearly recognized this risk, which is why consecutively for 2 days, yesterday the stock was down 20%, today the stock is down 20%. The market knows that something is very seriously wrong, and RBI is not going to tolerate.
Right, Murali. You're absolutely right. RBI's role and how it will proceed from here will be very much important. We have Vishy joining us back in. Let's try to understand how this is going to pan out for Paytm Payments Bank and what role RBI will also play here.
Right, Pragati. So, let's try and understand what it is that the RBI is paying, or is as the RBI is finding out in these audits that it has conducted in Paytm Payments Bank. Essentially, the money laundering concerns are coming not just from these 1,000 odd accounts with the same PAN. Now, that's one situation, right, where crores of rupees worth of transactions have been conducted. That's what sources are claiming. But at the end of it all, there are a bunch of dormant accounts at Paytm Payments Bank. This is an issue that has been running in the bank for a very long time. These dormant accounts, the fear is that these dormant accounts could possibly be used as mule accounts for any kind of money laundering transactions. So that's another supervisory issue, a major concern as far as the RBI is concerned. Remember that any kind of transactions through prepaid instruments, that's what essentially your wallet on the Paytm app is. It's a prepaid instrument. There is a limit. There's a very clearly defined limit. If I'm not wrong, it's about 10,000 rupees that you can conduct. Those transactions can be conducted with minimum KYC. Just linking your PAN card is considered minimum KYC. Complete KYC requires you to link other documents as well, so that the bank knows who the customer is in its entirety. For prepaid instruments, there is this mini KYC sort of system created And what we understand is that these were the accounts where the problems have been noted. Essentially, people just linking PAN with their account and multiple people linking the same PAN account with their bank account, that leading to serious concerns as far as money laundering is concerned. Interestingly now, just a little earlier today, the RBI has actually looked at, has put out a statement on its website where it says that there have been continuing instances and reports of customers falling prey to frauds being perpetuated in the name of KYC updation. A lot of people, scamsters are calling customers in the name of KYC updation and stealing their bank details. Now, this is another way of using their bank details for illicit transactions. So the person whose bank account is there may not actually be the person committing the crime. It could be somebody else using their bank account to commit the crime. So these are all, of course, in the remit of a criminal investigation that can only be done by the police. The RBI does not have powers to look at it from a criminal point of view. It can only look at it from a system integrity point of view. So that's what the RBI is going to continue. But in case this becomes a bigger issue, then obviously you will see the police or the other authorities being brought in. Money laundering, of course, is something that the enforcement directorate handles. So all of these authorities may be brought in to look into these kind of transactions that are happening through Paytm and Paytm Payments Bank accounts, and only they can actually find out who are the criminals at the end of the day. As far as the RBI is concerned, the RBI is concerned with the entity that is allowing these transactions to happen, and it can only act against said entity. So as we have reported earlier, there is a very good chance that this entire process was initiated 2 days ago in preparation for revocation of the bank license from Paytm Payments Bank. Paytm Payments Bank, again, remember that Payments Banks as entities have only come in about 9 or 10 years ago.
Right.
So they will need some time to stabilize their operations, but this is probably the first instance where the RBI has noticed serious problems.
Right, Vishy. Thanks so much for making us understand that, because money laundering is definitely a bigger concern now coming over here. Let's go back to Murli sir here, because he also has something to say, and since now Vishy has already explained that what is the likely course going ahead, Murli, what do you have to say about this?
Okay, no, see, I don't have much to say at this stage, because all that needs to be asked and raised and found out is what would be the next course of action. If Vishwanath Nair can hear me, my question to him is, will RBI cancel the banking payments bank license? Now, to do that, what steps will be required before they actually cancel? So that's my first question. The second question being, if they cancel, what happens if they cancel the license? Now, this is as good as shutting down this payments bank business, right? Because they know very clearly Vijay Shekhar and his colleagues came on the management call and they gave a lot of details. That is the second part of the question. And the third part of the question is, what are the key lessons learned because fintech is growing in a big way. For RBI to control, it becomes tough. So how does RBI handle a situation like this? This is only one piece.
Yeah, so Murli sir, the point that you're trying to make is completely valid here. So if you're going to ask me about when exactly the RBI is going to cancel the license, that's for anybody to guess at this stage. But typically, when it's a universal bank or even a cooperative bank, what the RBI does is it releases certain business restrictions on the entity. It gives the depositors certain time to sort of get their finances in order. And then people can sort of claim whatever money they have in their bank account through the DICGC. Now, obviously, these are all steps that will happen much ahead in the future, probably not this month. So let's not get into that at this stage, but there is restrictions have already been put. What happens after 29th of February is what we need to watch out for. How exactly the depositors will be treated at this Paytm Payments Bank, that needs to be watched out for. As a payments bank, because Paytm Payments Bank is an entity that works with Paytm, which is a current transaction sort of an application, the outstanding deposits are not very high. It's unlike your bigger banks where hundreds of thousands of crores worth of deposits are kept with the bank in long-term fixed deposits. So this is more of a current savings account where money is put in and then used immediately for transactions. So not a lot of balance remains with the bank. So from a systemic risk point of view, that may not be that big of a concern. What may be of a concern is trust, because the entire banking business rests on trust. So if trust gets affected, if trust is questioned, then that becomes an issue and that becomes a serious point of contention for the entire system. And that's typically that's what leads to bank runs. That's what leads to serious concerns with a bank's future. Those are the problems. The second point that you mentioned, the second point, Mauritius, that you mentioned was with regard to how exactly can the RBI deal with the situation. Is that what you asked me?
Yes, yeah.
So what the RBI can do at this stage is purely put restrictions and warn depositors as to what they need to do going ahead. At this stage, we do not know if there is any kind of investigative authority being brought into this case yet. We do not know that. As far as Paytm is concerned,
I
the
will ask
parent
you
entity, as far as Paytm is concerned, they have already started discussing deals with other banks. So as I mentioned earlier, there's going to be a reputational risk, and we need to see if other banks are willing to sign up with Paytm if the regulator has found material governance concerns.
Right. Okay. Now, we are also being joined by my colleague Harsh, who is tracking the banking sector. He is a research analyst and an anchor. Harsh, we are coming to you. We want to know 2-3 things you have been tracking, and NDTV Profit has been leading this coverage, which is one of the biggest stories that has been breaking on NDTV Profit, and we know the ramifications. But first, Harsh, can you tell us what kind of damage can this do? You know, we have seen already roughly 20% each on 2 days. The stock has tanked. What kind of damage, given the kind of money that people had put in this one? It was one of the largest issues. Can you take the viewers through the background of how much money they raised, at what price, and what's the kind of wealth erosion?
Absolutely, Murli sir. Thank you for having me. So sir, just for a quick perspective, I'll start with Vishy's closing comments, and very correctly put,
Yeah, I think we have lost audio. Let me, meanwhile, go back to Pragati. Pragati, would you like to, recap to our viewers the kind of, what will this mean for the users of Paytm? How will Paytm users be affected?
Right, Murli. So we've been discussing about it for quite some time, and we have, so far in the coverage as well, we have divided the entire thing that has happened to Paytm Payments Bank into 2 aspects. One, the impact on products, and the other, the impact on the customers. Interestingly, as to what other people are thinking, contrary to what they are thinking, in fact, there will be no impact on customers whatsoever, and even Paytm has clarified that, because a lot of customers have been asking that what will happen to our FASTag, what will happen to our QR code. All services continue as it is, and as Vishwanath has also previously mentioned, February 29 is the deadline that has been given by the RBI to Paytm Payments Bank to initiate or even initiate and carry out whatever has been told to them. In terms of impact on customers, there will be no impact on user deposits and savings accounts, no impact on deposits in wallets, FASTags and NCMC accounts, and that's what we've been clarifying and repeating to everyone. There will be no immediate impact on UPI payments as well. The QR code that we are supposed to use for payments, it will continue as it is. In fact, even if we look at the impact on products, there is no material impact as of now, because like we mentioned, Paytm Payments Bank has been given that time till February 29. The Paytm payment gateway business continues for online merchants. Offline merchant network offerings also continue as it is. The FASTag also continues. Paytm POS and Soundbox services also continue unaffected. Meanwhile, while we have clarified about the impact on products and customers, we have Harsh joining us back, the connection has been restored. So Harsh, Murli sir was asking you about what sort of impact that we are expecting based on what Vishwanath has also picked up from the sources.
Well, yes, absolutely. Thanks, Pragati, and apologies for dropping. Now, I'd like to start with the point that Vishy was making right at the end. That I don't want to dilute the fact that this is a very, very big development, but at the same time, for Paytm itself, the impact outside of the sentimental impact on customers may not be major from this, because Paytm Payments Bank is essentially a 49% owned by Paytm Bank.
Right.
So essentially, it's a standalone entity. Right. And the repercussions which the RBI is enforcing is largely on the payments bank. Of course, with that comes the reputation of Paytm, which comes under question. And as Vishy correctly put, the couple of banks which are being considered to replace Paytm Payments Bank will really have to have a rethink on whether they will actually want to be part of this Paytm infrastructure.
Right.
Where the wealth is concerned, Paytm had raised 20,000 crore rupees in the month of November of 2021, 2 odd years back. And they had raised it at a valuation of 1,50,000 crore. The stock price at that point of time, IPO price, was 2,150, which investors have never seen. The IPO was subscribed 2 times, so it was oversubscribed, and oversubscribed by quite a bit.
Right.
And thereafter, the stock has actually tanked 77% as of today. So we've seen investors lose a large chunk of their wealth.
Yeah.
And I also want to kind of round off the point by trying to bring some perspective with regard to what the management has been saying, Pragati.
Right.
As well as Murli sir. Now, what the management has been suggesting largely is that, Paytm Payments Bank is fine. We are not sure of what the non-violations are.
Right.
If there has been such a big non-violation, then clearly they have somewhere not given the correct commentary, and that is a clear concern in my view. So that is one other place where there is a concern. They have been saying that everything between Paytm and Paytm Payments Bank happens at arm's length, but here, as per our sources, the transactions are not happening at arm's length.
Right.
In fact, there are transactions which are being laundered, and there is also certain transactions routed through parent app, which is raising data privacy concerns. All of this will again trickle down on Paytm. So some of the RBI related impact may not come on Paytm as such, but some of the second order impacts will come on Paytm in a very strong way, given that a lot of the management commentary has continued to suggest that they don't believe there is anything wrong with regard to Paytm Payment Bank, despite all the internal audits as well as external audits they've conducted.
Right. Right, Harsh, absolutely right, because even though they are saying, the management has been saying that they are separate entities altogether, but there are concerns that will boil down on Paytm, especially reputational and trust factor, like Vishwanath also mentioned before. We have Murli sir joining in once again because he has one question, so let's take that up quickly.
Yeah, okay, no, one last question to Vishwanath Nair. To what extent is this a systemic problem? See, when Paytm is obviously a very big entity, they've changed, and Paytm is a household name. If Vishy is able to hear me, my last wrap-up question is, do we see any systemic impact of this? If not, it's just a one-off.
Murli sir, hi. So the point to be made here is with regard to the systemic impact is again boils down to the trust factor. So if you cannot trust the biggest name in the fintech industry, then who can you actually trust? And that will weigh on the user's mind that if there is some amount of, I don't know a better word in English. So if there is some amount of golmaal happening here, then obviously there is a serious concern with the rest of the ecosystem. Remember that so far the RBI has not come out with any kind of a specific commentary on any other entity. The only comment that they've made is on Paytm Payments Bank and by extension Paytm. So whether this results in any kind of trust deficit within the fintech ecosystem, within the various other thousands of payment apps that currently exist in India. If there is a trust issue there, then that will sort of create a serious ecosystem damage because people will want to not use those apps to make their payments. And that boils down to the fact that then banks have the advantage because banks are still running their own apps. Customers can use bank apps to make any kind of transaction. So will that lead to advantage for the banking ecosystem? That is something that we need to watch out for. But definitely, if there is an issue with the biggest name fintech, then the entire ecosystem does fall under question.
Right, Vishy, thanks so much for bringing us those details as well, because clearly it may not be a systemic issue right now, but the question of trust definitely comes into play. A quick 10-second wrap for our viewers on this. NDTV Profit brings you the exclusive details on what went wrong with Paytm Payments Bank. We had Vishwanath Nair, Murli sir and Harsh joining us. Vishwanath Nair also brought the exclusive details that RBI found material lapses in Paytm Payments Bank. There were concerns of money laundering. That's what sources have told us. And RBI also found breaches in the governance standards at Paytm Payments Bank. Stay tuned for all the fastest coverage on Paytm Payments Bank. For now, it's a wrap on this show. I extend my special thanks to Vishwanath Nair, Murli sir and even Harsh for bringing us these details on the coverage. Thanks so much. Stay tuned.